Yeah, most of you might know that in December, as of end of December 2019, the number of people who were on one of the video platforms like Zoom was only about 10 million people. As of the end of March 2020, the number of people who are using Zoom, or daily users we're talking about, has zoomed up actually from 10 million per day to 200 million per day. So the good news for all of us is that there's so many more people out there. Our target market has moved with us from offline to an online. So there are people there, but the bad news or the more tough news for us, the challenge for us, I'd say, not the bad news, is that there's so many people trying to catch their attention. How can you stand out from the crowd? So the idea of this presentation was primarily that to help you to be able to stand out from the crowd, be apart from your competition, and how you can ensure that you are able to grab the attention and idea of your customers, and make sure that you can grab the order. If you think you like the introduction, go ahead and say, yes, I like it, and you're eager for that. Go ahead and type it. I want to see if you're interested in whatever I'm saying. Do you think this is interesting for you? Well, you've joined in, so you have no choice but listen to me. But do you think that's interesting? Do you want to stand out from the crowd? That's my question to you. Do you want to be that salesperson? Do you want to be that business person who's able to catch the attention of your customer in such a way that the customer says, hey, I want to be able to do it? Do you want to make sure there is absolutely no difference in your business, whether you're doing offline or online? Okay, it should be, I call it as BAU, which is called a business as usual. Okay, in fact, Deepa here will tell me it should not be business as usual. She says business better than usual. What do you say, Deepa? Business better than usual is better than business as usual? I think she'll say yes for that. Okay. So let me quickly, I'm going to give you a quick idea as to what are we going to look at this. So before that, I want to ask you, you can unmute yourself, some of you, and tell me, maybe you can, it's a good idea that you can raise your hands in the chat box and tell me as a participant, why is it that you want to create an impactful Zoom presentation? So why don't you tell me, why is it that you want to do it? Okay, why are you interested in this? Okay, so, okay, Anita, go first. Why do you want to create an impact? Keep in mind your business. Tell me. Yeah, go ahead, Anita.
We are into a show business actually. Okay. So for us, it is eventually what we show is what we can sell. So when it comes to events, if I cannot present my ideas well to the client will not get the confidence that she can execute the ideas and the designs the way she's actually talking about it. So for us, presentation at any point of time is very, very important.
Okay, fine. So since you're the show and tell business, you need to be able to present properly. Good point. Who else would like to give a shout? Tell me, why is it that you are in this? Go ahead, Lavanya.
So I have two reasons that I'm here. One is that, of course, I have a huge faith in you being able to make this. Number two is that I conduct a lot of workshops all the time, every week, and I have to now move online, and I need them to be as impactful as they were, in real time. And aware that the body language is now not a part of this, I really want to know how is it that I can create an impact.
I can see that your body language is very good so far. Okay, fantastic. It's doing good. Good. Excellent. Anybody else would like to tell me why you came into this session? Yeah, go ahead.
Amrit, why I came into this is after COVID, most of the business, wherever work from home is possible, the business is going to move work from home. And many of the presentations we're going to speak to the senior managers or to the management, they are available all the time, either in home or at office. And most of the meetings are going to be conducted through video conferencing going forwards. And 5 years down the line, I believe most of the meetings would be through video conferencing. There wouldn't be much of physical meetings going forwards. So if I can improve myself from here, what I am to something else, that would be beneficial to me.
Absolutely, yes. And being a chartered accountant, I said that, since you're not able to actually promote yourself, you'll need to be able to use whatever opportunity that you get to be able to make that impact with your clients. Correct, Srinivas?
Absolutely.
Good point, yes. Yeah, who'd like to go next? Please raise your hand and, okay, Vinod, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. In fact, some of you I may not be able to see you in my window, but if you can raise your hand, you can use the thing called raise hand. That'll help me. Okay, after Vinod, we can have Anil Kumar. Okay, yes. Yeah, go ahead, Vinod. Yeah,
there are two points for me. One, I would want to improve my presentation, whatever the interaction, what I'm doing. Okay. Second, I want to know, have I made an impact? Sometimes we ask for feedback. But I really want to be confident about myself that I have made an impact, and whatever I'm presenting is made an impact on my customer.
Very good. Yes. Yeah. You want to be, so what you're saying is that you want to make sure, have I really made the impact that I want to make? Is that your question?
Yeah, I want to be very confident of myself. I don't take a feedback. Maybe sometimes I do take a feedback, but I want to be confident myself that I have made an impact and whatever point I'm making has reached the person.
Correct. You want to make an impact that counts for you. Good, good. Yes. Right, Mr. Anil, I guess you raised your hand in that participant column. Yeah, go ahead. Please tell me, Mr. Anil. Yeah.
I have 3 reasons to participate in this program. The first reason is, as Mr. Srinivas said, the future may be involving a lot of online meetings and presentations. So definitely I want to be equipped for that. Number 2 is the principles that I might be using for online presentations would definitely, some of them would be applicable for offline presentations. So I want to improve there. And the third reason is that you are doing the program. I've attended your other training programs, and I have confidence that you will deliver what I'm looking for.
Thank you so much. Now you're raising the bar for me, and then I really need to do my best. Thank you so much, Mr. Anil. Good. Excellent. So guys, what you can also do is to make sure that you're able to look at who's talking. You can select something called the speaker view. So when you select speaker view, whoever is talking will pop up there and you can look at them. Okay. So who'd like to go next? Please go ahead. And once you're done, you can always mute yourself so that we know who's next. So there are a lot of very shy people here. So I'm wondering, how are you going to really make an impact? Harish, I think you have a very lot of shy people in Sigma IVT. So unless they don't want to make an impact, they're wasting their time in my presentation in this program.
They're just waiting, in fact. I mean, Naman, Ashok.
Go ahead. Please go ahead. Yeah, don't be shy.
This is Ashok here. The main thing is, the main reason to attend this program is going forward, we think post-COVID, even the May lockdown is done. I think clients would not allow the visitors to enter into their campus. It's very important that going forward, we know that the meetings and presentations are going to be online.
Correct.
What we need to know is, as rightly pointed out before me, people spoke about saying that what are the do's and don'ts that has to be taken care during an online presentation, because it's not going to be the same as the presentations which we go do meet directly and do it. Maybe there are few points which we have to take care in an online presentation, which would help us to tune ourselves and ensure that going forward we can have a better presentation.
Awesome. Fantastic. Good. So yeah, in fact, I'll tell you, this is somebody once told me a very interesting word. They called it as the new normal. Okay. The new normal, in the sense that this is going to be the normal for us. We need to either, as they say, shape up or adapt and thrive rather than, get stuck and all those things. In one of the things that I do is a very interesting field of science called neuro-linguistic programming. Some of you must have heard of this. It's called NLP, in which we have a set of things called presuppositions. A presupposition primarily is something where it's a kind of a mindset. Okay, once you operate from that mindset, basically it's a sentence. If you operate from that mindset, if you act and believe that your life is going to be that way, you will see a lot of amazing changes happening in your life. Okay, so one of the mindsets or presuppositions that we have is something called as, people with the greatest flexibility control the situation. Okay, people with the greatest flexibility control the situation. That means if you're not flexible, you're not going to be controlling the situation. So the more flexible you are, you can control the situation. So that's what I want to say. And do you think you can be flexible? There's another presupposition which says, you have all the resources within you. Okay, so, right, let's just go on to see Harish. Harish, yes, go ahead. Let me, please tell me what's your view on that. Once you're done, you can always mute yourself. Yes.
Yeah, Amrut, as we rightly discussed, when this is might be it's a tough situation that we are actually going on, but once this we come out of the crisis, it's going to be more online meetings that is going to happen. And precisely now itself, it is most of it goes on online, and your travel, domestic travel or an international travel is going to be, it will take its time.
Yes.
But otherwise, it's definitely going to be an online meetings that would get conducted. So it's important to understand how we can actually correct ourselves during the online presentations, make an impact during those particular meetings. As the customer, because he also would have other 5-10 other meetings. So probably the impact should remain in his mind for him to look at the partners like us. So that is also another reason why I want to be a part of this particular meeting.
Great, fantastic. So I think I've heard from a reasonably fair amount of people. With your permission, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started on the program. Would that be okay for all of you guys? Good. So first off, I want to tell you exactly what you're going to learn today. Okay. So I'm going to be looking at three very important things today. Okay. I want to tell you what are those three things. So remember, as always, like I said, this is a kind of a protocol that you should learn when you're in any kind of a Zoom or a video presentation. Especially in Zoom, it works very well. Once you're done speaking, remember to put yourself on mute. Always remember to unmute, speak, and mute. So the process should be unmute, speak, and mute. So when you're muted, if you don't mute, what happens is that your video will be shown there while somebody else is also speaking. So that could happen. Also, the other thing is that there could be some other outside noise which could be happening. So that's why it's a good idea to mute yourself. Good. Great. So let me just get started with what I was trying to tell you. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to talk to you about three very important things. Okay. The first and most important thing is that I want to tell you what really creates an impact in any presentation. When I say any presentation, I'm talking about not just an online presentation, even an offline presentation. I remember Anil telling me that he wants to find out how we can present not just in online but also offline. That's the first thing that we'll be talking about. The second thing is that I'm going to talk about what is something that you really need to keep in mind while doing a video presentation, because there's a lot of difference. You might have felt it already, difference between a video presentation that we're doing now compared to what you do in an online presentation. And of course, we want to engage our clients, we want to engage our participants. Some of you might be doing a presentation where there'll be a lot of people sitting in front of you. Okay, you might be doing meetings and presentations as a manager, as a businessman. Some of you might be meeting clients and customers and trying to sell them to them, actually trying to convert them as such. While I may not be able to handle everything about sales in this is really not a sales training. I'm going to give some very important aspects which can help you to sell better while you're doing, a video presentation like this. So these are things. You think you'll be interested to hear these things? If you say yes, or if you put yes, type yes if you think this is interesting already. Awesome. So if you think it's interesting already, let me know. I'm going to go further. Good. So let me tell you about, this is basic, I'd say, I'd call this communication 101, this slide. What I mean by communication 101 is, this is the basis of communication. In fact, the way we communicate with others, there are just three ways in which we communicate. They are face-to-face, telephone, and written. So when I say written communication, we might be communicating through email, text, or WhatsApp, and all those things. That's written communication, WhatsApp or SMS messages. So if you look at it, can you tell? There's no other than these three modes. There's no other way that you can communicate with others. Okay, think about it. Right now, I am doing kind of a face-to-face communication. You can look at me. Okay. If you otherwise we used to meet the customer in his or her office and meet them and do a face-to-face communication. Sometimes we do video conferences like I'm doing right now. If we can't have the opportunity for face-to-face, we tend to do what's called telephone communication. We pick up the phone and talk to them, or we send them texts and emails and things like that. That's what it is. Now, other than this, I can't think of any other way. I mean, at least right now, I don't know telepathy yet, so I have not added telepathy there. Let's say when we learn telepathy, then maybe I'll add about that. But for now, I think it's safe to assume that these are the only three modes of communication. Yes? Only three modes. Now, having said that, let me tell you what's important. Before I go further, can some of you tell me which among these three modes, okay, I'm sure we use all these three modes, but tell me which communication mode do you largely use in your work? Okay, so some of you can, raise your hands in the chat box and I'll look at that. And
face-to-face.
Face-to-face.
Okay, yeah, you can tell me face-to-face. Most of you are doing face-to-face? Okay, fine. So what would be the percentage? I mean, how much percentage would be face-to-face as in going to the customer's clients and meeting there? Or how much would you say, I'm going to be doing, give me a percentage, yeah. So Lavanya says email and WhatsApp is largely what she does, and she doesn't do face-to-face. Is that right, Lavanya? You could unmute and tell me.
Yes, that is true.
Okay, so some of them say telephonic and WhatsApp. Ramu, you tell me it's telephonic and WhatsApp. So you don't do face-to-face meetings at all, Ramu. And Santosh says the same thing. He says telephone is what he does most and 40% is face-to-face. Yeah, any other observations?
I do face-to-face also.
Mm-hmm.
We do Ours is more of a written communication for any confirmation in terms of writings which they would require as a chartered accountant. Most of the times it is telephonic or face-to-face. Email and written communications is only for transfer of information. Or kind of a communication, but more of face-to-face and telephone. Yeah.
Plus, what you're saying is that once you meet up with the customer and talk to the person and do the phone calls, maybe you might use email communication more as a confirmation. It's almost like a whatever we have discussed, I'm going to send you a mail as a confirmation or something. Sometimes you may send an email and then follow it up with a phone call by saying, hey, listen, I sent you a mail, but this is what I want to discuss about that. Okay. So, Good, yes.
Most of our professional emails would go with that. And more of telephonic and face-to-face. Very less communication in terms of WhatsApp, official communications.
Right. So as you can see, it differs based on the kind of profession you are, the kind of business you are, the kind of customers that you're going to be meeting, and all those things. But it's safe for us to assume that we use all these three modes. We tend to use all these three modes. Now, here is some interesting thing I want to tell you. Now, if you look at it, when we communicate with people, either face-to-face, telephone, or written communication, there are three important, what shall I say, contents or aspects of this communication. They're called as the visual content. Now, the visual content is, for example, what the other person can see. Right now, you can see me, right? If I have put my video on, so you can look at me. Maybe you can only see up to my chest here. If I stand up, you can see a little bit more about me. I'm not going to take the risk of standing up, though I'm fully dressed. I promise that I'm fully dressed. I'm always fully dressed for my programs. Okay, right. So so that's visual communication. Visual is what the other person can see. It could mean how you look in terms of what you're dressed, all those things, your background, your gestures, your facial expressions, and things like that. There's also the vocal communication, which is how you sound. And all of you will agree with me that the way you might sound when you're sitting in front of a customer, face to face, literally in the same room as a customer, would be very different than what you might sound when it is, through an electronic medium like this. Give me a thumbs up if you agree with me on that. Isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah, so it'll be sounding very different, because right now there could be, perhaps because of technology, there could be some lags, and because of poor connectivity and internet, my voice sometimes might sound like a robotic voice, many things like that. That could happen. Okay. Then we have what's called the verbal content. So essentially there are these three parts: the visual content, what the other person can see about you; the vocal content, what the other person can hear about you; and the verbal content, the actual words that you use in terms of what's your text, what's your matter, in terms of your subject matter, as in what are you really trying to tell them, the subject matter. Now, I want to ask all of you these things. Now, tell me, in the face-to-face communication, okay, among these three things, what all is present in face-to-face communication? Can somebody tell me that? What all is present in face-to-face? Would you say there's visual, vocal, and verbal? All three are there, or only one is there? What's there? Tell me.
All
behavior.
All three, correct. Yes.
All three.
Yes, right now I'm doing a face-to-face communication. You can look at me, you can hear me, and you can also understand my words, hopefully. Unless if I'm speaking in a very strange language, then you will not understand my words. Now, when you come to telephonic communication, how different is telephone communication? Oops, I shouldn't have. Oops, wait. No. Okay, there you go. Anyway, I'll let the cat out of the bag. Okay, fine. So, telephone, what do you think? Telephone. I hope you didn't see that, but okay, tell me. What's
telephone, there's no visual content.
It is vocal and verbal.
It's vocal and verbal.
Right. So in telephone, when you pick up the phone, the other person can only hear your voice, and the person can, understand your words. If you're speaking in English or whatever language, he can understand, isn't it? Right. Now, when you say written communication, if you can see, none of these three things are there. None of the top two are there. Only the verbal communication is there, as you can see.
Yes.
Okay, as you can see. So when you look at this slide, okay, according to you, what do you think is the most powerful way to communicate? What do you guys say?
Face to face.
Absolutely face to face. Yes. Yes, face to face. In fact, I must tell you, in face to face communication, the human senses are greatly at play. Okay, you use a lot of human senses. When you're sending them a text or a written communication of any sort, what happens is that the human senses are not at play. They can't see your face, your emotions. They cannot hear the tonality of your voice, where you're stressing and all those things. So it is a greatly reduced form of communication. Okay. So face-to-face is actually the opportunity to create the best impact is face-to-face. Next is telephone, least is written. Of course, written communication is also very important, but then in terms of impact, it doesn't have as much. Written communication is more, can be used more as I said, a confirmation of what is being told in either of the two other communications. So you can use written communication more as a confirmation after a face-to-face meeting or telephone. So let's say, for example, you've gone and met a customer and you propose your product or service to him and you had a proposal, things like that. And he will say, okay, why don't you send me a proposal? Why don't you send me a write-up or whatever he says? And then you get back and then you send him a mail. Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure meeting in your office. Based on our discussion, this is our proposal. This is what we propose to you. I guess this is all most of you know this, isn't it? So you send a proposal, it's more written. In fact, I'll tell you something interesting. Many times when I am introduced to a few clients, sometimes clients tell me, Amrut, why don't you send me your profile? We'll look at it and then we'll meet up with you. Now, so by this, are they asking me to give me the permission to do face-to-face first or written first? Which are they requesting first? They're telling me, send me your profile and then we'll have a meeting. What are they telling? Are they telling me, which is
written first?
They're asking me written and then face-to-face. Okay. So I tell them, sir, I can always send you what I'm writing, but I would love, because I have a lot of things which I have in my profile, most of which might be useless to you, sir, because we do a range of services that we do. Many of it could be useless to you. So rather than bore you with a lot of text, it'll be good if I can come out to your office and meet up with you, sir. The worst thing that will happen is maybe I'll have a cup of coffee with you. Okay, if you want, don't give me the coffee also. I'll just drink some plain water. I'm just kidding here, of course. So, but I'd love to come over and meet up with you. And, you can put a, face to my voice. You can, I'll see you. Maybe I'll have a look around your office or factory. And then based on our discussion, I'm going to send you something specific. Maybe after our discussion, two things can happen, sir. One, we may realize that I have nothing to offer for you and I'll gracefully exit. Maybe if we find that what I have can help you, only then I'm going to send you something written, sir, because I don't want to spam you with material which may not be useful for you. So give me about 10-15 minutes of your time. I'll come over and visit with you, and then we can take it from there. What do you think? I'll say. More often than not, I find customers saying yes to me. So as you can see, this is my way of asking for customers to give me a face-to-face appointment rather than be stuck with a written. Now, most of you know what happens when you send a proposal or your company details to them by mail. What happens? They will select it and delete it, and they'll forget about you. Okay. Yes, it goes there. And it's almost like the customer say, give me your card, I'll let you know. When will it, when it snows in Bangalore. Okay. Snow, and I don't think it's going to ever snow in Bangalore. I can never say now. Many things are happening today.
It's going to pass.
So I hope you understand this. So important to understand that face-to-face is the best way of communicating. Then the next two things. Now, feel free to take some screenshots, but in fact, what I'm going to do is that even if you don't take screenshots, I'd be more than happy to share my PPT with all of you at the end of this. Would that be useful for you? Give me a thumbs up if you like that. Okay, good. But just because I'm going to send you that PPT, don't go to sleep. I want you to pay attention and interact with me here. Okay, right. Okay, good. So because it's good to learn this way. Now, I want to give you some important information which has come to me through research. Okay, now research done sometime in the mid-70s say that when people communicate, okay, when people are presenting. Now, this research is for not just video presentations, but this is for any kind of presentations, whether you're meeting the customer face-to-face after the lockdown or anything like that. This is very important in interesting research. It says that when you're meeting somebody, there are three kinds of impact which can happen. The impacts are called the visual, which I already told you, the visual impact, the vocal impact, and the verbal impact. That is your body language, what you say, how you say and what you say as such. Now, in your opinion, what do you think among these three things makes the biggest impact? Give me some answers in the chat box. If you had to say the body language, the vocal, and the verbal, and what you say, if you tell me what among these three things, if you had to give it in terms of the order, which is the biggest impact, which is the second biggest impact, which is the third biggest impact? I see some people saying body language. Somebody said, yes, please. Okay, fine. So some people say voice. Okay, fine. Yogesh says voice is very important. Okay, some people say vocal and voice. A lot of people are saying voice and vocal. Go ahead and type out your answers. I'm asking you, which do you think has got, if you had to give a rating as to the topmost, most important, second important, and third important, what would that be? So somebody says body language important, second vocal. Somebody says vocal is important, and then the body language. Somebody said verbal is the second most important. Good, good. I like your answers. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to give you some important, interesting information. This could be something which you may feel, when I heard it the first time, I didn't believe this. It says that 55%, yes, 55% of the impact that you can create on somebody is the visual impact. Meaning, right now, if you're enjoying what I'm in this program, if you're enjoying this program so far, it is largely due to the visuals that I'm sharing with you. When I say the visuals, it is also my slides and my visual impact, what you can see in me. So 55%, that means more than half of the impact that you can do on somebody is 55%. 38% of that is vocal. That means the voice and the voice tonality. And the least is the words. So what this means is that, and this is important for you to understand, many of you might have a fantastic, well-written presentation script with you. All of that will only create 7% impact. That script that you might have, which you're prepared to talk to front of your customers, will be useless if you do not know how to use the 93% properly. Meaning, if your body language and your voice is not in sync with what you're saying, then it's not going to make an impact. So today I'm going to tell you about what are some secrets that you can share, you can use to be able to use your body language and your vocal impact to be, in sync with what you're saying. If that's interesting, tell me that's interesting on the chat box. Would that be interesting for all of you? Yeah, so I'm going to teach you about how you can have body language and voice along with that. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so good. So here's what we say. So as you can see, visual is really important. Now, this is what it says about generally about any kind of presentation. This is research done back in the 1970s when possibly Zoom or anything like video conferencing was not existing. But it holds true even to this day. Now, you may ask me, Amrut, what could be the difference between the face-to-face presentations and the Zoom presentations? So here's what I'm going to show you. Now, the difference between in-person, which is what we normally do, to online, there's some key differences that you got to understand. Okay? If you see when you do in online person, only 50 of the 55% visual, only the top of you is visible. Okay? So perhaps only your face. I would still say that it should be a little more than your face. Right now, when I'm doing this presentation, I can see a lot of you are seated much closer than what would be considered comfortable. Okay. Now, when you're sitting face to face with a customer, I'm sure you don't go very close to a customer. Even online, I see a lot of people are seated this way. Would you like it if I'm going to be talking like this? No? Isn't it? Some of you are here. So I prefer that you be seated at a distance, which I'd say I'd like to keep myself at a distance of about, say, 2.5 feet away from my screen. 2 to 2.5 feet. Okay? So that's a good thing. But so that means a lot of you is visible. In fact, let me tell you, the more you are visible to your customers and your participants, the more they can trust you. I'd say when we move out of these online presentations to an offline presentation also, see, I am a keynote speaker. I'm called a lot of times to go and give speeches in front of lots of audiences. Sometimes they give me a choice of standing behind a podium. You know what a podium is, isn't it? So a podium is something like this where you can stand behind it. I prefer not to stand behind a podium because I'll tell you, when I stand behind a podium, only this much is visible of me. Perhaps my face. Yeah, since I'm a short person, only my face is visible. So what I do is I say, thank you, I don't want a podium. I put on a clip mic and I stand in front of all them. In fact, psychology says that actually, when you can see more of the person, you can trust him. This goes back, back to the days of the nomadic days. When the nomads, it actually goes deep into human psychology, I'd say, in the sense that you will only trust a person the more you can see him. Okay, if you can see very little bit of a person or you cannot see the person, it's difficult for you to trust that person. Which is why I tell people on video presentations, always and always keep your video on when you're talking. Now imagine if I was doing this presentation this way, would you like it? Yeah, you can see my handsome face. Yes, it's a photograph, but still you will not, I'm not going to make the same kind of impact as you can see. Okay. So I always tell people, keep it, isn't it? So in fact, the more you're visible, the more they can trust you. Okay, the more you're visible. So if you can be completely visible, okay, the more they can trust you. And also, if you can use your hands and palms more open way, keeping your hands open, as you can see, use a lot of your hands. That means you're emoting well and they can trust you. So trust is extremely important. In fact, I tell people that, more than competence, people want to trust you. Okay, you may be extremely competent in what to do, but if they can't trust you, as in you're, I can't believe you, then, all your competence goes for a toss. You might be the best in what to do, but if I can't trust you, I will not give you business. That's very important. So I need to be able to trust you. Okay. So visual, only a little bit of it is visible. The second thing is that more often than not, you may not be able to see, if you're presenting to a large audience, you may not be able to see all the audience. That could be the problem there. Also, another thing which can happen is that, they can't see you. Sometimes the client may not be visible for you, or all the clients may not be visible completely to you. Also, there's no scope for you to gauge a real-time reaction. Now, right now, I can at best, since I am not on gallery view, I can only see some of you. But I'm actually scrolling down to see if all of you are paying attention. Okay, I can see some of you. Yeah, you're not scratching your nose, so please don't put your hand in your nose or your mouth. That's what the government says for now. Okay, it's good for you. Keep your hands washed all the time. Okay, so what I'm saying that you're not going to be able to gauge reactions. Okay, you're not able to gauge real-time reactions. If you are sitting in front of me, if you're 50 people also, I'm going to be scanning the room and I can actually gauge real-time reactions. I can see exactly who's really interested and who's not interested, isn't it? I'm sure you agree with me on that. So that is one big mistake that's going to happen to you. You're not going to be able to see that. Okay, so that is why I say this is one, it's a big hampering for all of you. That's what you got to keep in mind when you do that. The second thing is that technology issues can affect it. Okay, there could be problems in video or audio. These are something that you contend with, and you got a budget for all these things to keep in mind. Of course, we got specialists like the Sigma AVIT who can help us get a seamless and great visuals and all those things. So all that is there. They can help us with these things, of course. Many times your voice may sound a little bit garbled. I don't know. I should ask for feedback. I hope you're hearing my voice clearly all through my presentation. If you think you can hear it, it's important. So that's what's very important. What I'm doing now, as you can see, I try and consciously try and slow down what I'm speaking. If I were doing this presentation face to face, perhaps I would have spoken a little faster and maybe not paused as much as I'm pausing now. But since I'm doing it through a technology like this, like Zoom, I like to slow down a bit. I like to keep a little bit longer pause. Perhaps I may give maybe a 2-second pause in between sentences rather than just maybe a short pause. So these are some things I do to overcome these technology issues. That's what you got to keep in mind when you do these things. Okay, so keep this in mind because sometimes the client may not be able to understand these things. Okay, this is something that you definitely should not do. I hope you can see this. Can you see that? Okay, so what I'm going to do is that till now I've covered what are the things which create an impact. So let me ask a quick question, okay, to all of you. A quick quiz for all of you. Of the 3 things which create the impact, what do you think is the thing which creates the biggest impact? The answers?
Visual.
Visual, good. Visual is the most important. So you have to understand that. So
visuals.
Yeah, good. So the visual. So understand this. In fact, I didn't believe that, but that's very important. Okay, so visual does create an impact. To give you an impact, to give you a quick understanding how visual can create, I'm going to show you some more slides now. Now, some things that you've got to consider. Since we know that visual is very important, you've got to be extremely careful of your visual message that you're sending across to people, especially in a Zoom presentation. Remember, you got to be able to see where you're going to do it. So location is extremely important. Okay, so do not do like what I've shown you here. Okay, right? The only good thing when you're sitting here and doing is, of course, the person cannot smell you, but beyond that, it may not be good. Okay, so location is important. Now, right now, I can see a lot of people visuals look like this. Now, tell me what's wrong with this picture. What's wrong with this picture?
The face is not seen.
Yes.
Lighting.
Yes.
The light.
Yes. So I'd like all of you to look at your own videos. Look at your own videos. Right now, I can see a lot of people, of course, their videos are not on, but those of you videos are on, you have a window behind you and the window curtain is not drawn. I'm not going to tell your names, but look behind you and you can see. So what happens is that if the window is open, that's going to create a light coming from behind you. And because of that, your face is going to be in the darkness. So make sure that you sit in a background, which is a plain background like this. You see, some of you have got very good, interesting background. Like I see Mr. Prem has got a good background. Srinivas' background is also good. Yoga's background is also nice. A lot of you, okay? Yogesh, yes, good. Shivkumar, I can see a nice little photograph of your picture. Maybe what Lavanya is, I think she's got, light on her face. Yeah, that's okay. As long as the light is coming on your face, that's good. Okay, I'm going to show you one more picture. Okay, so the background is extremely important. some of you, having sort of background, I want to tell you, some of you are using what we call the Zoom background, okay? Or you got a electronic background. Now I'll tell you the problem with Zoom backgrounds. And I've seen a lot of people recently using this outer space background. There's that kind of a, there's a line there, there's a black screen there, there's a line coming there. Now I find that when they do that, it's a little jerky. I find that somebody was having a long hair, suddenly I could see some blob of hair coming here, then I see the blob of hair going there. Every time you turn your head this way or that way, that's what's going to happen. The electronic background kind of makes some adjustments, and your face is going to be very, very jerky. Somebody else I saw had a red background. They had, I think it was Desikan, who had a red background. Okay, so it's, avoid those backgrounds, because what will happen is that, let me look at Desikan. Yes, he's kind of shy now and he's removed his video. So what can happen there is that when you're moving up and down, that red background is coming on your face. It's almost like you got a bloodied face. You've got blood on your face. So the customer's going to be very shocked. So I like to go old school, which is I don't use any electronic backgrounds. I've carefully created my background here. I've shamelessly put some of my certificates here on one side. I've asked my wife to help me by putting some nice terrariums and nice succulents that she puts. She makes these things. So I've done that. Something simple, pleasing, and something which is not too distracting. Okay, so that's what you got to do. Okay, now tell me which is better among these two. Which is the better one? The one to the right or one to the left? Which is better?
Left.
Both of them are not good.
So
Both
the same person. Why would you say that?
Because on the it is too white, too blurry. You can't read. His face becomes something like he has just whitewashed himself, and he has blackwashed.
It's a lighting issue, sir.
Okay, but if you are given a choice, which would you rather prefer?
The left.
First one.
The left one.
Yeah, you can see his face, isn't it? Yeah, you can see this, isn't it? So this is what I would prefer. Okay, I mean, I'd say this is a guy I'd prefer, and this is somebody I'd definitely not prefer. Would you agree with me on that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as you see, that's why. So yeah. So at least have some lighting in front of you. Now I could do the same thing this way. Would you like me to continue this way? What happened just now? Look at my video. Put it on speaker video. What happened just now? Am I still visible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are visible, sir, but the light is bit less.
Yes. So this is much better. Okay.
Very good, sir.
Yeah. So good. So invest a small little lamp for yourself and do that, so that you can do this better. Okay. Let's move further then. 1 second.
Question is, if you are using a lamp and if you reflects back.
Sorry?
The glasses reflect.
Okay. Right. 1 second. I'm just trying to.
So I think it depends on the angle. Like for Amrit, the light is not reflecting right now, even though he's wearing specs.
Yes. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do this for you. What happened just now?
The visual is gone. We don't know who you are.
You don't know who I am, isn't it? Okay, fine. So I'm just trying to undo this thing. Okay. 1 second. I think that line is coming there. So I'll take an eraser and erase that thing. There you go. Okay, good. Okay, so moving on. Okay. As you can see here, this is what? Other things to consider. Okay, wait, before I go further, let me just go back. Yeah. Just finish that. Another important thing, this is extremely important for all of us. Now, when you're going to be presenting to a customer, make sure that your laptop or, ideally, I've already given you a message when you logged on to this to use a laptop. Do not use a phone and get logged in. Okay, so keep it in such a way that, people can see a lot of you. Sometimes people tend to sit too close by or too far away. The other mistake sometimes I see people do is I'll show you, they tend to keep it, and right now I see some of you doing that. You're keeping it here. What can happen? You keep it here. You see the difference? What happens? I am now looking down at you and you can see my double chin. Okay. So don't do that. So many times people do that. Sometimes people keep it to the side like this. They like to keep it to the side and then they try to do that. They're trying to see like this. So they're kind of working on something and they keep it to the side. So ideally don't do that. Okay. So it's a good idea to always keep it right in the front. Okay. So keep it right in the front and make sure you adjust yourself so that your face is exactly in the center. So it's not, I mean, it's no rocket science. So it's very easy. So many of you, some of you right now could probably shift your laptops in such a way that you make sure that you're right in the center, okay, well lit, okay. So it's a good idea. So maybe switch on your phones and switch on your screens, and then make sure that, let me give you a feedback on that. So some of you can switch on your screens and just for that 1 minute or 15 seconds and do that for yourself. So I can look at your faces, okay, and tell you exactly what you need to do. Now you may wonder, okay, Amrit, why are you making such a big deal about this thing? I'll tell you, this is extremely important, because if the person is going to be looking at you, it's important that he should be able to look at you clearly for a long period of time. So laptop placement is extremely important. Grooming, I can't tell you a lot about, I mean, this is extremely important. I can't tell you enough. In the sense, this is very, very important. I'm sure you don't want me looking like this with my hair like that, or wearing clothes or not cleanly shaven. So some might be saying, I'm staying at home, I don't need to go out. So okay, if you're not going to groom yourself below the belt and wear your pajamas or your lungi or something, I don't mind, because जो नहीं दिखता है वो कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, as they say. But जो दिखता है वो बिकता है ना, तो इसलिए what you do, make sure that you're groomed properly well. So men shave cleanly or have a nice trimly beard, because what can happen is that perhaps that person is going to be putting you on speaker view and doing that, so he may want to look at you. Okay, so don't and avoid yourself getting distracted during your presentation. If you're going to be looking at the phone or doing something like that, and that could also tell the person that you're not giving the full attention. So these are some small little things. Many of these things might be very insignificant, but they can be the thing which can make the difference between you getting the order and not getting the order. Let's come to the other things which you need to consider with respect to your voice. Okay, there are 5 important things with respect to your voice. Okay, 5 important things. Okay, right. Now, before I go to voice, what is that one thing which you feel with respect to the visual you learned right now which you are not doing? Can somebody put that on a chat box and tell me what's that one thing new you learned that you found that it was that you are not doing and you feel that you're going to implement from now, starting now? What would that one thing be? Go to the chat box and very quickly.
The light in the background.
Sorry? The light in the background, yes. Okay, what else? Anybody else would like to tell me what is it that one thing you're going to be implementing from now on? Okay, so I think it's important that you need to implement some of these things. The background is importance. Okay, yes, good, great. Okay, let's move on. Now, like I said about the voice, you need to make sure that your voice is audible. People should be able to hear you. So make sure that you keep your volume audible enough for that. Don't scream into that. Don't keep your mic in such a way that you can't hear. Now, can you hear what I'm saying? What happened to my voice? Can you still hear me? It's become a little low because my mic is very far away. You see, my mic went very far away. There are some people who do that and they start speaking like this, and what happened to my voice? It's, I think, echoing, isn't it? It's not very clear. It's not very clear, isn't it? So adjust your volume, okay? Speak to others and see, can you still hear me? It's okay. So volume is important, okay? Speak loud enough for them to hear you, okay? That's important. The other thing you got to do is speed. I already told you this a little earlier. So since it's a technology-based presentation, I'm using technology like a Zoom and all that. When I'm saying Zoom is one generic thing I'm saying, but it could also work very well if you're using Microsoft Teams or any other video conferencing thing, because almost the same kind of problems will happen there. So speed is important. Make sure that you're not too fast. If you're too fast, what happens? Then people are going to miss out some of your words. Other things, pronunciation. Try and keep your pronunciation as simple as possible, as clear as possible. Okay. I'm not going to be going into details as to getting a pronunciation. Stress is also important. So what do I mean by stress here? The emphasis on some words. So stress on the right words. Okay. The tonality, and make sure that you have the tone is something where we're talking about, are you sounding friendly enough? Okay. Use some humor, have some friendliness in your tone so that people are going to be interested in what you're saying. Make sure that you don't have a monotonous voice. You know what a monotone is? Monotone is single tone. So if you're going to be speaking like a robot, then people are not going to enjoy your presentation. So make sure that you have the highs and lows in your presentation, so people are going to enjoy that. So these are 5 important things that you got to consider: volume, speed, pronunciation, stress, and tone. 5 important things with respect to your voice. Okay. So I could go normally, more on that. So if you look at it, stress is very important. Okay. If you stress on the right words, then the right impact will be there. Okay. Right. Now that we have looked at what is something that you got to consider, I'm going to come to a third part of my presentation, which is how do you engage? Okay. How many of you feel when you're giving a presentation, you started off with, let me check if it has happened to me. Yes, it's happened to me also. I started with 26 participants and now I have 25. So one person I lost, but that's pretty okay. But there are sometimes, 100 of them are there and then it goes down to 25. That's going to be difficult. So you need to be able to engage your audience, keep them in this. So now, start off with what we call as addressing the WIIFM. How many of you have heard of this phrase called WIIFM? One of you can unmute and tell me, what do you understand by the term WIIFM? What does it mean? Okay. So what do you think? What do you understand by this? WIIFM.
What is in it for me?
What's in it for me? Yes. Who said that? Mahesh. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mahesh. Yes. Now, listen, you are coming to my presentation for what reason? Because you feel there's something in it for you, isn't it? You are not here for me. You're here for yourself. So that's extremely important. So I have to make sure as a presenter, can I give you something that will be useful for you? I got to ask myself, am I adding value to my participant? Am I adding value to my customer? Am I adding value to my client? So that's very important. So make sure that you add value to your customer and your client. Okay, what's in it for me is what we're talking about. So before you begin your presentation, before you begin to frame and create your presentation, ask yourself, what is that one thing which I'm adding value to my customer and my client? You may do a 5-minute presentation or a 1-hour presentation or even a 90-minute presentation. Ask that yourself, what is that one value that my client is going to get from it? So address the issue is very important. As I said, the presentation is for their benefit and not your benefit as such. Now, having said that, there are two kinds of presentations that you might be doing. These are called as either informative and persuasive presentations. So a quick question to all of you. What is the kind of presentation that you might be doing? Okay, unmute and tell me what kind of presentations that you normally do. You can see there's a difference between the informative and the persuasive. So who would like to tell me what kind of presentations that you do?
Informative.
Generally, we have technical presentations, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so your tech. So, okay, tell me what is the difference between an informative and a persuasive presentation? What do you think is the difference between an informative from what you see in the, what I've written there? Anyone?
Informative is more of for.
Okay. Okay, so what's the difference that you said?
Informative is more for education.
Okay.
Persuasive is for sales. It's for convincing.
Yes, you're right at that. So you see now, okay, so tell me, my presentation today, is this an informative or a persuasive presentation?
Informative.
Sorry?
Informative.
Yes, so any kind of teaching or training is largely informative. When you're sharing some knowledge to others, it's more like an informative presentation. Okay, so if you look at it, for those of my friends who are part of BNI, it's almost like an informative presentation that you're doing. Okay, the difference between informative and a persuasive presentation is that when you do a sales presentation, when you're trying to convince a customer or a client, like many of us want to convince a customer or a client, then that is something, it's called a persuasive presentation. Okay, so can you, I think I'm back on, right? Can you see my slides? Give me a thumbs up if you can see my slides. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my slides. Okay, can you hear me? Okay, good. Thank you so much on that. All right. So coming to the last part of this presentation, which is how do you create an impact with your customers? Okay. As I said, yes, nothing will ever come close to a face-to-face presentation. But in this scenario, we need to still continue to use our video presentations. So in any kind of presentation, whether it's an informative or persuasive presentation, you will notice that even in an informative presentation, in both of these presentations, we have what is called as 3 parts. One is called as the introduction part, the body part, and the conclusion part. The introduction, the body, and conclusion. Okay, I don't want to get into greater details of this right now, but just to give an overview of what we know, what we need to do is that you need to make sure that in any kind of presentation, even if it's a sales presentation, start off by introducing your customer and get their attention. Okay, then you're going to tell them, you deliver the main points, and then you conclude your presentation. So if you largely use this format of an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, it's a good thing for you. Okay, so always try to use this particular format. Now, if you see, there's a slight difference between an informative presentation and a persuasive presentation. In a persuasive presentation, you see the difference here is that you are actually trying to do what's called as, you can focus on the conclusion. In the conclusion, you're going to have what's called a call for action. You want them to take an action, meaning you want a customer to buy your product. You want a customer to maybe give you a site visit, or you want a customer to ask you to give you a quotation, or you want a customer to maybe decide on your product. So these are some things which happens in a persuasive presentation compared to an informative presentation. So if you see the difference, I'm going to go back to the informative presentation. Here, you're giving them an information and you're summarizing it, period. But when you do a persuasive presentation, after you give them what you want to tell them, during your presentation, they may ask you some questions, because they'll say, okay, they may ask you some objections or questions and all that. They'll say, I am not convinced about this, I'm not convinced about that. So they're going to ask you all these things. And then you're going to call for action and things like that. So you're going to end by asking them to do something. You're going to end by telling the customer to do something. Maybe you can ask him to give you a check, or maybe you ask him to, an order for something like that. So that's what we have in a persuasive presentation. Now, going a little deeper into this, if you see, most business or sales presentations are the persuasive type, right? So now it's important that you start off very well in your presentations. Okay. Now, quick question. What do you think I did in the beginning of my presentation? How did I introduce myself? What do you think I did in the beginning? So either put it on a chat box or open your unmute yourself and tell me, how did I make my introductions interesting for all of you? Anybody can tell me, what did I do? What did you catch? What did you see I did differently? Anybody can tell me? What did I do differently? How did I catch your attention in my introduction? Sorry?
You share the success story.
Okay, what else? What did I do in the beginning? How did I catch your attention? What did
By asking questions.
Okay, that's it. What else? What else did I do?
Purpose of the training.
Okay.
Introduction ourselves.
Okay. Yes.
First of all, you asked us to join 15 minutes in prayer.
Okay.
That was one of the.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Okay. Use a simple methodology which we call as the tell them thrice formula. Okay. I'm just going to keep my back. Okay. So what I mean by tell them thrice formula. Okay. So when we say tell them thrice formula is this. Some of us who are in the training industry might know this. It says, tell them what you're going to tell them. Okay. Tell them and tell them what you told them. Meaning, see, for example, I told you in my presentation today, you're going to be learning about what are the 3 things which are going to create impact. What are some things that you're going to consider while doing a presentation, and finally, what are some things that you got to, how do you engage the audience? These are 3 things which I told you in the beginning of my presentation. Okay. If you want, I'm going to show you right at the beginning of my presentation. I'm going to show you that. 1 second. Okay. I'm going to go to my first slide. Okay. And show you exactly what I told you. What are you going to learn today? Can you see this? I told you today we are going to learn what really creates impact in a presentation, things that you got to consider while doing a video presentation, and how to engage your audience. So these are the 3 things which I'm going to, so this is my tell them what you're going to tell them. I'm going to come back to the slide and explain to you what I said just now. Okay. Okay. So I think there's some technology issues as I'm speaking to you right now. Are you able to still see my slide?
Yes, now we're able to see you.
Oh, good, fine. Now it's my slide has come back again, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so, there's a very interesting sentence that most trainers like to use. They say, or most presenters like to use, they say, tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them. I'm going to repeat that again. Tell them what you are going to tell them. Okay. Tell them and tell them what you told them. Prem, you can type it if you want so that people can see what I just told you. I think you remember what I said that, Prem. Yeah. It is. Yeah. Tell them what you're going to tell them. So you're going to tell them, this is what I'm going to tell you. Okay. And then you tell them actually what you told. And then you tell them what you told them. Okay. If you think this is confusing, I'm going to show you what I'm saying. So what this really means in simple language is you begin your presentation by telling them what you're going to cover in your presentation. So you're going to say something like, sir, in my presentation today, I am going to tell you blah, 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 blah. In my presentation today, this is what I am going to cover. That's the first part. Just tell what you're going to tell them. So when you do this, you're actually giving them an idea of what you're going to cover in your presentation. If you start your presentation just by telling them, start off your presentation without giving a preview, then they are not going to like it. So always start the preview of your presentation. Okay. A preview is what we said. So I think Mr. Prem is also typing that. He says, tell them what you're going to tell them and tell them what to tell them. So you're going to say, sir, in my presentation, this is what largely I'm going to be covering. That is the tell them what you're going to tell them. It's like a preview. You're giving them an advance of what you're going to tell them. Okay. And then you're going to say, okay, let me start with the first thing. So my first thing is this, you'll say. And then you're going to summarize it. So it's like the body, the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. That's what we're going to say. So introduction, body, and conclusion. So normally, when I start a presentation, I'm going to tell people that, in my presentation today, you're going to learn this thing, you're going to learn that thing, and you're going to learn these things. That's what I'm going to cover. That's exactly what I said. And then I go ahead and do that. Okay? So, and then you go ahead and tell them, and then you conclude it. So, for example, you can say, sir, today I'm going to tell you, I'm going to start off by telling you about my background, what we do as a company, and how we have been there. And I'm going to tell you some of the products that we have. And I'm going to summarize and tell you how you can go ahead and use our products, like that. And then you're going to finish that. Okay? Now, I'm sure none of you would like to stare at a face like this, isn't it? Okay? What is wrong or what's right with this person's face? What's wrong or what's right with this person's face? He's very scared, isn't it? Yeah.
He's not comfortable enough.
He's not very comfortable. So it's important. So even this is part of this. So I'd like you to start a little warmly. Don't be very robotic. I'm currently coaching one person who's a senior vice president of a company, and very often, how he starts off, he starts his presentation this way. He's very, very serious. Okay, good morning. Today I'm going to be talking about the recent business program, continuity program that we did. I already sent you a deck. I hope all of you saw it. Let's start the first point. So like that. And I told him, I hope you're not conducting a funeral, I told him. He looks like he's a funeral director. He looks like a funeral, very, very serious. I said, come on, chill out, smile, talk to people. Don't be too business-like or too robotic. Use your hands. Start the informal greeting, saying, hi guys, how are you, and all those things. So based on the kind of people that you're going to be talking to, if it's a customer, don't be too ultra casual. You say good morning or good evening and things like that. So, I'm saying we try to connect to the people. Have that connection. Do not have a funeral face, is what I say. Smile at the people. Think, relax, so be relaxed. Okay? Another thing that you can do is a very important thing. How many of you noticed me doing this? How many of you noticed me doing this? Asking questions, isn't it? I asked, do you remember the first ever question that I asked you other than introducing yourself? What was the first question I asked all of you before I started the topic? What was the first question I asked you? How many of you remember my first question?
What do you want to take back from today's?
Yes, I said, why do you want to improve your impact in Zoom presentations? Remember that question? Okay. So now what happened when I asked you that question? What do you think happened? What did happen to you as a participant? Did I engage you or not? I engage you. So if you want to engage your audience, you can ask questions. Okay. So asking questions is very, very important. Once you ask a question, you acknowledge the question by saying, that's interesting, good. Encourage them by saying, sir, tell me more. Okay. So now I want to ask all of you another question. Think of your own business. What do you think would be the right question that you can ask your customer at the beginning of your presentation? How many of you would like to try this exercise? Think about your own business. Imagine that you're presenting your customer and you're doing a Zoom presentation. What would be that one question that you would like to ask your customer? So give me a hand raise in the chat box. Let me look at that. And as a participant, you can raise your hands. I can see that. Who would like to go first? Okay, let's try with Mr. Yoganand. What is that one question that you would like to ask your customers at the beginning of your presentation?
Yeah, good morning. And how many people would like to stay safe and secure? through the technologies.
Okay, that's one thing. Let's say you're sitting in front of your customer. What would be the question that you'll ask your customer?
I would like to introduce my products. Secure you and your assets.
Okay. So maybe a better. Okay, yeah. So
I'd like to.
So maybe, Mr. Yoganand, what you could say is that, sir, you can say, sir, in these uncertain times, how important is the security and the safety of yourself and your employees?
Employees, correct.
Would that be a better question for you, sir, Mr. Yoganand? Yeah, so that's a better question. So
thank you, sir.
Yeah, so that's a better question. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Lavanya, would you like to go ahead and ask? Anita is next, but yeah. So
yeah, I would basically ask you something more casual. Basically wanting to find out how they are, how they're feeling, how is it that they're using this time?
Yes.
What is it like? Is it as busy or not? Basically just break the seriousness.
Yes. So that's the break the ice. That's the icebreaker. Post the icebreaker, what's that one interesting question that you can ask to position your product or service? That's what I'm saying.
So we basically ask that, what is it that you feel that you would like to change about the way you live now that you have experienced, what you have experienced?
Yes, as an architect, you're asking that. Good. So Anita, go ahead and ask me. You say you want to ask something, yeah. So others, please raise your hand in the, you can raise your hand and then I can, unmute your hand. Yeah, go ahead, Anita. Please tell me.
Yes.
What's that question?
As event planners, we would like to actually discuss the events with them. But seeing the current situation, it becomes very difficult to talk about celebrations at the moment.
Yes.
So I would prefer to ask them that, is there any kind of an employee engagement that you would like to conduct? Because there's a lot of seriousness that is all around. So would you like to conduct some employee engagement programs? Or in case it is a family that I'm connecting with for a family event, that I would like to ask them that since you all are already distant away, would you like to have some way of celebrations wherein the entire family can be virtually connected with you all and still have a good time with just not the physical presence being there, but all the other elements around?
Right, good. Yeah, so I'm saying that good, because Anita, you're on the event space. How about if you tried a question before this question? Would you like to hear that question? Huh? Yeah, yes. So the question could be, I'm just thinking, keeping your category in mind, your business in mind. I'd say, sir, in these times when people are practicing social distancing and physical distancing, as a family, how important is it for your family to stay connected and, and have some, and still enjoy the fun moments? How important do you think that is? Okay, what would you think they'd say for that? Okay.
That's a lovely way of putting it.
Yeah, and then they'd say, yes, it's very important. And then you'd say, would you be interested? So before you even position your product, ask a question related to interactive things. Now, for example, if you are talking to a director of an organization, you can say, sir, now's the time, that, all your employees are practically sitting at home and all those things. How important, sir, is it for you to be able to engage your employees in this situation, especially in these situations, to ensure that they're engaged and still connected to your organization? How important do you think that is? You can ask him. Ask a question where he will say, yes, yes. Most likely I'd like to ask a question in the beginning, which can say yes. How many of you think that this question is extremely important at the beginning of your presentation? How many of you think this is very important? Go ahead to a chat box and say, extremely important for me. Okay, which is why I'm spending a little time on this particular question, isn't it? So I'd like you to start thinking deeply of what would be that initial question that you would like to ask in your business. Okay, so anybody from Sigma Aviative would like to give it a shot and tell me what is that one question? Because I'll tell you, it's important, regardless of what business you do, how you start your presentation. You got to start by engaging the customer, and the best way to engage the customer is to ask him to speak more and you speak less. And the best way to make the other person speak more and you less is ask a question. Ask a relevant question. Ask a question which will make that person speak more. Okay? So let me hear one more person trying that out. Who would like to try it out? Anybody? Vinod, would you like to try it out? Mr. Mahesh, would you like to try it out? Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead. Please try it out.
So Anita been told that corporate program.
Yeah, your voice is a little breaking. Would you like to restart again and tell me?
In terms of the Anita was speaking about the corporate engagement program. Yes. So we are into the wellness engagement program.
Okay. Prashant. Yeah.
So we plan for the
Prashant, your voice is a little bit breaking, Prashant. I'm really not able to hear you very clearly. Anyway, yeah, go ahead and try it again. Yes.
So, how?
Maybe Prashant, it'll be a good idea if you can type out your question. Yeah, I can see you now, but your voice is not very clear. That's why.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I'll just try it later.
Yeah, now I can hear you better. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
So,
yeah.
I'm just telling about this. Like once the conversation starts, we tell about that how employees, or else when you're planning employees to work engagement.
Okay, fine. Still unclear, but anyway, maybe you can type it out. Okay. Yeah, from what for the others, Prashant is into diagnostic lab services. So they offer a range of diagnostic services, and they also train employees of companies on a range of health-related and healthcare-related services. Good. So let me see if there's one more person who can give me one last chance, one last try. Who would like to try and give me what would be your app question? Yeah. Yeah, who would like to try?
I'll be asking about their company, what they're into.
Yeah, after the general introductions and the ice breaking.
Oh.
Sorry. Was that? I'm really not able to hear your voice. So anyway, let's move on ahead. So what I'm saying is that I'm sure all of you agree with me that this particular part of your presentation is extremely important, isn't it? If you think it's important, go to a chat box and say very important. If you feel it's important, that this particular part of the question is important, just type that it's very important, isn't it? Yeah, very important. Yeah, moving on. Now, once you kick-started your presentation, then you go in, this is your starting. So when you start your presentation, you are breaking the ice with the customer, okay? And you make sure that you understand him, and then you start presenting your service and product to him. Make sure that you keep your presentation as short and as engaging as possible. Do not, I repeat, do not start doing featureizing, meaning don't start telling one feature after another feature, because then you're going to lose out on a customer. Remember, I said one thing in the beginning. When you're doing a face-to-face presentation, if you keep on talking, you can actually see if the customer is feeling bored or not interested, because you can see him. But when you're doing a presentation like this, you may not be able to really notice whether the person is paying attention or not. Which is why I tell, do not keep on telling a whole series of don't keep on featureizing your presentation. Keep it short and ask him. So always keep on asking questions with the customer and keep the engagement and always there. The best way to keep engagements is keep on asking questions, thanking the customer, encouraging him. What do you think about this? So how did you feel about this? Like that. So much like what I'm trying to do now. Okay. And once you're done that, then address his questions and concerns. Ask him, do you have any questions or concerns? They might have some questions, especially in a sales presentation. They may have some questions in terms of, tell me more about this. How can this do for that? They may ask you some price objections and things like that. Now, since this is not a sales training, I'm really not covering all the ways on how you can answer objections or, address concerns and all that. When I do a larger sales training program, I cover all those things. But for now, I'm saying that this is largely the format that you have to do. Very importantly, what you also have to do is that you'll have to keep in mind one very important thing, which is you got to make sure that you suggest an action plan. See, when you do a presentation, you want the customer to take a decision, isn't it? So you got to end by saying something which can make the customer take a decision or move the conversation forward. So when I say move the conversation forward, think of that one thing that you can say which can make the customer take the next step. So in your businesses, what is that one thing that you tell the customer which can make the customer take the next step? I'm talking about point 3 here. Suggest a definite action plan. What is it that you do in your presentation which will make the customer move forward? Okay, you had the initial discussion with the customer, then at the end of the sales call or the end of the discussion, at the end of the client call, you want the customer to do something. So can one of you unmute yourself and tell me, what is that one thing that you would tell the customer to make him go to the next step? What's that one thing?
I think your mic is muted.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so before I go back to my presentation, what is that one thing that you do to make sure that the person, you finish your presentation, you want to take it to the next step. What's the one thing that you're going to do? How would you take it to the next step? How do you take him to take action? What's the one thing you do to take action? Would it give it a shot? What's the one thing that you do to make the person take action? Meaning, what is that one action you want after your presentation? What do you want to happen after your presentation? Would you want the person to say, okay, thank you so much, give me a card, I'll let you know? Would you want that to happen, or you want something else to happen?
And what do you...
Okay, so how do you do that? What would you say?
The demonstration or the discussion.
Okay.
Conclude and ask them if they are satisfied.
Okay.
And if they are satisfied, they can place an order on us and we can give them the best service.
Okay. Yes. So maybe one of the things, yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I would suggest that you should also do is keep in mind, think of a relevant question that you can ask them. Think of something which will make the customer feel, okay, this is what I want to do. So maybe after your presentation, there could be either you want them to, maybe you're going to send them a quotation, or maybe you're going to send them a proposal, or maybe you're going to do a site visit, or maybe you want them to do something else, things like that. So keep in mind, what is that one thing you want to do, and suggest them to do that. You can say, now that we've done this thing, so write it down and be able to tell that. That's very important. Okay. So because if you're going to end a presentation without asking them to do something, then what will happen is that, all your hard work is going to go for a waste. Okay. So moving forward, okay, ask them, if I have to ask you one question, okay, now, I really won't be able to cover everything else. So if I had to say, what is that one thing, if you want to walk away from this presentation, what is that one thing that you think you learned a lot from this program? So now the mic, it's open to all of you. So one thing which you felt useful in today's program. What is that one thing if you were able to walk out? Yeah, it's open to you. Yeah, go ahead and type it, or go ahead and tell me, because I have one more slide to show you, but for now I'm going to ask you to tell me, what was that one quick takeaway that you feel you had from this program?
This is Ashok here, can I?
Yes, yeah, go ahead Ashok, yeah.
The presentation, I meant to...
Sorry, your voice is breaking, Ashok. Could you repeat that again?
I said the way.
Sorry.
So that a lot of questioning.
Okay.
He can and move ahead.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? Yeah. Your voice was a little breaking, but I could hear most of it, Ashok. Yes. Anybody else? What is that one takeaway? If you feel you had a takeaway from this program, what's that one takeaway you had? Yeah.
Yes,
okay. I like what Yogesh was saying. When can we have your order? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Vinod. Yeah. Go ahead and tell me. Go ahead, Vinod. Unmute yourself and tell me.
Yeah. For me, the most important takeaway today is the visual part, and I thought the voice was the most important.
Okay.
And I was speaking a little fast also, so I've learned to be more aware, be more mindful.
Awesome. Good. Okay, Anil, what is your learning from today? I think Anil raised his hand. Anil Kumar. And then Harish can also tell me. Yes, go ahead, Anil. Anil?
For me,
yeah.
Try to make them face-to-face as far as possible. Many times, customer, somebody was willing to have a face-to-face, rather online face-to-face meeting. I would try to make it a phone meeting.
Okay.
Now I can see the importance of making it face-to-face.
Yes. Yeah, there can be some technology issues like we faced it right now today. But having said that, I'm sure you agree that this mode is much, much better than just a phone mode, only audio and words, isn't it? Yes. Yes, Harish, you want to say something, Harish? Yeah, go ahead and tell me, Harish.
when most of the time, in fact, we are engaged onto the video presentations with end customers.
Okay.
Yes, we do actually certain practice, but what we actually felt in today's meeting is that knowingly, unknowingly, in fact, there are many factors which we are not following it up. As you said, one is the distance which is there, one is the visual which is there, the kind of the content that we actually use. How do we actually have to get connected with them and probably
Correct. In fact, Harish, I must tell you, and in fact, I should tell this to all people of Sigma AVIT, that since you are a company which is it's Sigma Audio Visual Information Technology, isn't it? So you of all people should use both the audio and the visual. It's not just a Sigma Audio Information Technology company, isn't it? So visuals play a very important part. I know some of the products that you sell are world-class products, you know, and your audio visual products are excellent. So please use that visual effectively because you're going to sell it that way. One more thing that anybody like to tell me. What's that one takeaway that you're going to take from this program? Who'd like to raise your hand and tell me that? Yes, go ahead. Because I got one more slide waiting for you, okay, to keep the continuity. So I think there's one more person. Yeah, so who wants to go ahead and tell me? Okay, looks like, yeah, go ahead.
What is that? Oh, enrolling question was very good. Start with enrolling questions.
Yes.
Start with yes, 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 that's right.
Yes. Yeah, as you call them, as we call them as enrolling questions. Good, yes. Yeah. So now, I want to end by telling you something which, you know, how can we keep this? So this is actually part, thank you so much for participating in this program. You know, I'm glad you spent at least, I think we spent, over almost more than 1.5 hours for this program. If you think what you found was interesting, then I'm going to tell you that I have what we call the leadership series. And in this leadership series, typically, I cover quite a few things. You know, these are typically for either practicing managers or for entrepreneurs. And in these programs, we cover many of these topics. I'm going to be having shortly weekly sessions or once in 10 days sessions on motivation, team management. You know, if you're somebody who manages and handles a team of people, delegation is extremely important for, you know, leaders, decision making, conflict management, you know, all these topics. So, you know, give me a shout out if you feel that this could be useful for you. You know, put it on the chat box. So, you know, you can always get in touch with me on my email. Okay. These are some of the things which I have. So go ahead and, you know, type out or you send me a mail or, you know, you can email, even SMS me on or message me in any of these 2 numbers. I'd be more than happy to help you out. Thank you so much, guys. And if there's something else you want to ask me or tell me, I'm going to be stopping my screen share and I'm open for any questions right now. Okay. Any questions?